Hey everybody, Jason Spangler here, the Santee Swapper. Sometimes I get a collection in that is so unique and special that I really just want to kind of share it with the world. And that's how I feel about this box. Really interesting. I have a lot of videos about what I do online. And so some people will come across those videos and reach out to me when they have a family member's Boy Scout memorabilia that they no longer know what to do with. They want to find someone who would be appreciative of it and kind of appreciate the history, especially. In this case, I got a phone call from this gentleman's sister. He had passed away last year, and she was very fond of her brother and was going through his stuff and found his scouting memorabilia, and then found me on the internet and reached out. Now, what was amazing to me, being someone who grew up in Sumter, South Carolina in the 1980s and getting my Eagle in the late 1980s, is this young man grew up in the 1950s in Alabama, Mobile, Alabama. In fact, he was born in 1941. He became an Eagle Scout and also went to the 1957 National Scout Jamboree. But it's kind of being putting my scouting historian cap on, if you will. What I find so fascinating is that this young man, Alphonse Russell Jr. from Troop 219, was an African American scout, a young boy who grew up in Alabama. Talking to his sister on the phone, she said that their dad was a mail carrier, her mom was a physical therapist. They didn't have a whole lot of money, but talked really affectionately about her brother and how when he joined the Boy Scouts, he was very, very determined to earn its highest award of Eagle Scout. And he did that. She told me some other stories about that. So let me kind of open this up and I'll show you what we've got. Now, for those of you watching this who are memorabilia collectors, there are a couple of cool things here as well that will be worth sticking around for. And hopefully, that will also tell a little bit of history for scouting memorabilia's sake. All right, so here's the box. I'm going to this one. So you can kind of see everything right here. So as what you might be kind of typical from the 1950s, he had one of these red poplin jackets from the Jamboree that he used. It's kind of his brag jacket where he sewed all of his patches on. And I definitely want to show you that because there's some really cool stuff on there. But then also down inside here, we have his merit badge sash, a little bag of patches, and also his Eagle medal. So let me maybe start. Let me save the jacket for last because that's kind of the cool thing. All right, so here's his merit badge sash. Now, this is pretty typical of patches from that time period. You're going to see all of these are sort of 1950s era merit badge patches. And those of you who are scouting memorabilia will recognize this dark green material. You should recognize him as having been an explorer scout, which would have been high school age scouts back during that time period. So let me just pull up the other camera here, and we'll throw this under the camera and just kind of show you all Alphonse's merit badge sash. So, things like life saving canoeing, swimming, rowing, citizenship in the home, um, sit in the nation, sit in the community, soil and water, all those guys, pet care, basketry, a lot of camp merit badge, camping, cooking, personal fitness, and hiking. Kind of see all those guys there. Then we have a couple of things in this bag that I'll show as well. So here's his 1957 Jamboree catch. And check this out. An Eagle Scout neckerchief slide, homemade out of a turtle shell. How clever is that? Maybe a little box turtle or something like that. That is super, super cute. Then we also have a Eagle medal, which again was the thing that he was so proud to get. Let me just show that to you. Like spin it around, right? And his card. A couple of other things here. Yeah, this I don't think is Boy Scouts, but she sent me a picture I'll show you in a minute where he was in the Air Force, and that might be an Air Force thing. And then these are little military little things as well, probably from the Air Force. And then this would have been his little tie class. What do you call that? A tie bar or something from being Explorer Scout. And then here's a little sterling charm that would have come for that. And then this would have been a little push pin. So the really, really cool stuff there. Again, Alphonse was in Troop 219. Back in that day, the number 200 could have represented troops that were African American troops. I know in my hometown of Sumter, any troop that had the number 100 started with a 100 would have been an African American troop, and that may have been true in his council. Maybe they were using 200. Here's the 57 neckerchief. Now, again, going back to this, you think about 1957. He told me on the phone that in order to get the money raised for him to go to this, that they scrapped and borrowed and like everybody put money in. It was kind of like a family effort. He was actually a paper boy who delivered papers, and she sent me some pictures. I want to show you a couple of those now to kind of help tell the story. So this is a picture she shared with me of him as a scout in 1953, according to that. And you can see just a really, this is a great picture here. You got his garrison cap on, his big neckerchief. This kind of a tall, skinny kid. Then here's a picture of him on his newspaper route. So riding his bike and delivering newspapers. And she said this was how he, raised money. And she said when he was on his scouting trips, they and the family would pick up his route and make sure that all the papers got delivered to kind of help him out. And then this is a picture of him as an adult, and you can see that he joined the Air Force. And so, again, born in 41, so he did his scouting in the 1950s, accumulating and going to that 57 Scout Jamboree. All right, so now let me show you the jacket, which I think is really cool because, again, you can see more of the history here and also kind of get an appreciation for him having gone to the Jamboree. I may use the camera as well, but let me just kind of give you this look to kind of begin with, and we'll talk about some of the patches on here. Now, what often happens at a Jamboree or somebody who attended the Jamboree is they're going to kind of create, and it's not really fair to call it a brag jacket, but that's what some people would say. It's patches that they traded for that they thought were really cool, they liked. People have done this since forever, and I'm sure that's what he did. A couple things on here. This would be if Alphonse had been a member of the Order of the Arrow in Mobile Area Council. This is the OA Lodge he would have been a member of, Wawachilina Lodge 322. Now, someone watching this video, please, please leave in the comments and tell me if you have any knowledge that this lodge was desegregated in the 1950s. I seriously doubt it was. I just don't know enough about it. But I don't think that being an Eagle Scout that he would have been a member of this Order of the Arrow Lodge. Maybe so, but I don't know. I mean, it was Alabama. It was 1950s. I just don't know if they did that. So, but he had the patch on his jacket. So either he earned it and he sewed it on his jacket, or he traded for it somehow at the Jamboree. And she did not have his uniform, so I don't have anything else. Everything that you see is what I got from her. So this is kind of all I know. This is the OA Lodge over in Houston. So again, kind of in that same neck of the woods. And then we have here a Scouting Exposition patch 1956. This doesn't have a location on it, and neither does this one from 1954. So those could have been patches that he earned. Certainly them being kind of on the front of the jacket maybe makes you think they were kind of special. Then we turn the jacket around, and it's got his name in it too. That's cool. But we can kind of see the other patches that he has on here, including some that a few of you are going to get pretty excited about collector wise. So this camp, I did a little bit of homework before we got on. This is Camp Yatasi, which is a camp in a neighboring council. I think this is, I hope I don't get this wrong, but I think this is a camp in Louisiana. So it wouldn't have been there, although Mobile maybe being kind of south. This is another Order of the Arrow patch, also not from his area, Teoc Lodge. That's from over in Mississippi. And then here's a patch from the Puerto Rico Council. Again, something he traded for at the Jamboree, not something he would have earned. This 57 Jamboree jacket patch fit right there on the back. That's exactly what would go there. East Texas Council, Camp Tonkawa, Citizens Now, MacDill Air Force Base, 1956. This Citizens Now was a program that was done with Explorer Scouts, and that's why you can see right there in the patch, the design has an Explorer Scout. And MacDill Air Force Base obviously would have been held there in 1956. So this is an Explorer event, which again matches his sash. He was an Explorer. Another one here, Wichita area, which would be down in Louisiana, Camp Edgewood, Kaliskeu Area Council again down in Louisiana, South Bay Camporee on the Santa Fe, Mount Diablo Council, that's in California. So again, a pack you traded for at the 57 Jamboree. Tukabachi Council, that is going to be, I believe, in Alabama, but over in another part of Alabama. And then here's a patch from Iowa, a regatta in Iowa. And then the last one before I get to the good one is 1957 National Scout Jamboree, Region 5, which would be Alabama, Mississippi, that area. That was the one he was contingent member of. Okay, this is the patch that I have kind of waited on to tell you about. So let me switch to the camera view now, and I'll just throw this one up, and we'll kind of look at this one specifically. All right. So I did a little homework. I knew when I spotted this that Camp Leon Roberts was not a camp that I was that familiar with. And so it kind of stood out to me. And knowing Alphonse's background of being in this council in the 1950s, I thought and confirmed by looking at the camp book that I have pulled up on another screen here. But indeed, Camp Leon Roberts is what we call in scouting a segregated scout camp. So, as you might imagine, during the years of segregation, if you can kind of use this, the white boys and the black boys did not go to camp together. They did not go to summer camp together. So, different things happened. In some councils, they had a totally different property that would have a different camp name, and that's where the Black Scouts would go to camp. And in some councils, it was simply they would run a week of camp just for the Black Scouts, and they would change the name of the camp. Now, not literally, but that's what they would just call it something different. And so that's what happened in this case. And so, looking at the camp book, here's what it says. And by the way, the camp book is wrong. Bob, are you watching this? In the camp book, it says that Camp Leon Roberts was open from 1960 to 1970. Uh, I think that this provenance now would give definitive proof that Camp Leon Roberts was open way before that. Would have been maybe as early as, well, certainly 57, but maybe even a little bit before that. If he was born in 1941, then he probably would have gone to summer camp sometime in 1953, 54, 55, somewhere in there. And certainly if he was working on his Eagle, when he goes to the 57 Jamboree, he's 16 years old, which is pretty prime age to go to the Jamboree. So I think definitely Camp Leon Roberts is open in the late 1950s. The other note here on the camp book, it says it's also known as Camp Rabbit Creek. And the note says it was open 1 week per summer, possibly just a program name at the Camp Pushamahata in Citronelle, Alabama. So again, like I said, it's very possible that Camp Leon Roberts was not a different physical property, but for that 1 week where they had all the African American scouts come out, they just called it Camp Leon Roberts of the Mobile Area Council. And this was something that was done all through the South. Almost, I mean, probably about every council did not segregate their camps or have their camps segregated, sorry, didn't desegregate their camps until the end of the 1960s. I know my home camp, Camp Coker in South Carolina, that I grew up going to, I heard this story from a guy named Bill Tyson, who's no longer with us. He told me that he was at National Camp School. I think it was the summer of 1969, and he got a phone call from the scout executive telling him that they were going to close the camp that they had been running Black Scouts. It was called Inpaco in my area down near Conway, South Carolina, and that the Black Scouts were going to be coming to Camp Coker that summer. And so, for him to have been an Eagle Scout in the 1950s in South Alabama, it's really just, I think, hard. She told me on the phone, his sister told me that there were only about 4 boys that she knew from that era that achieved the rank of Eagle, and she did credit his adult leader as being someone who was a big influence that kind of helped push him and told him that he could do anything he wanted to do, and kind of gave him a little bit of support in that can't say no attitude that he had. So anyways, so these segregated scout camp patches are really hard to find for patch collectors because essentially what happens is that very few scouts went to these programs, and the ones who did, maybe they did it for a summer or two, but it wasn't like they stuck around and like Alphonse got their Eagle Scout. Not very many of them. And so these patches are really hard to find now, all these years later, for scout patch collectors. So I wanted to show that one just kind of for the history of it, because not a lot of people have seen these, and I probably haven't done any videos, maybe since a long, long, long time ago, about segregated scout patches in the BSA program. So, anyways, hope you enjoyed this little short Scouting Hot Finds Live. I got this collection and I really wanted to open it. I plan on taking the collection to summer camp where I can display it at summer camp and kind of show this history to the other scouts there at Camp Barstow, where I serve as the camp director. I think it's a really cool collection. I'm kind of excited to get something that feels like it's a piece of history. Again, having grown up in the South and having so many friends in scouting that were African American, you know, it was different in the 80s, and it just didn't seem like there was that many. It was just a different world. And we all went to school together. I played on the high school football team with all those guys, and we all, got along and had a great time. But I recognize that, 30 years earlier in the 1950s in Alabama, that was not the true situation. And so for him to become an Eagle Scout was really an accomplishment, kind of achieving something that almost nobody else did. So I think it's just really cool. And I wanted to call him out. And, I didn't promise his sister I was going to do a video or anything. This is really just me getting excited about the collection. But I did press her to share with me some pictures, and she graciously did that. So I'm happy to share his history a little bit. Again, his name was Alphonse Russell Jr. from Troop 219 in Mobile, Alabama. So thank you for watching. And, we just want to put the outing back in scouting. And we have a long history. And hopefully it's going to, be a good turnaround for us. Thanks very much.